Welcome my friends, it's time to answer your questions again, your creative PC questions, feedback for your builds. I'm getting a lot of questions and I'm trying to answer as many of them as possible, and the best way to kind of reduce the amount of questions I get and to reduce the amount of duplicate questions I get is to make these videos where I'm going to answer the question, because if you might have the same question, then you're going to actually get the answer and everyone gets educated and we get some good build feedbacks. So let's go.
Looking for a cheap way to license your Windows? Check out Whokeys through the links in the video description. Make sure to use the code TN20 to get a 30% off. Paste the license to the activation settings and you're all done. This license is for Windows 10, but you can upgrade it to Windows 11 for free. They also offer Microsoft Office 19 license. Use the same code TN20 to get a 30% off. Check out whokeys.com in the video description below.
So here's the first question from Stefano. He says, "Hi, I'm Stefano from Italy. I've been following your YouTube channel and I love it. I'm ready to build my PC and hope you can give me some advice on the components I'm considering. The PC I'm going to build would be mainly for professional content creation with a lot of After Effects, video editing, 3D modeling and rendering. Software would be all Adobe Suite, Blender, Cinema 4D, Unity, Unreal Engine 5 and so on. A bit of gaming would be also nice in free time. I have two options of configurations, one for DDR4 and one for DDR5, which would be a bit more future future customizable. So option one here is DDR4. For the case, we have the iQ4000X RGB white case. Then motherboard, we have Gigabyte Z690 Aorus Elite DDR4. CPU 12900K, Corsair Vengeance RGB Pro SL 32 gigabytes, 3600 megahertz. So this is quite a fancy RAM, really. Samsung 980 Pro SSD. Gigabyte RTX 3070 Ti for the graphics, Arctic Freezer 34 eSports Duo for cooling, and some Arctic fans and Corsair PSU as well. So the total there would be 2,137 euros. And then here for the option 2, the total would be about 200 more. But what has changed is that the Samsung 980 Pro SSD is now Silicon Power 1TB PCIe drive. And then the RAM is Kingston Fury Beast DDR5 32 gigabytes. And the motherboard is Z690 Aero G DDR5. Now, here's the option, DDR4 or DDR5. The thing is, I highly recommend you go check out my DDR4 versus DDR5 video, because there you can actually see the difference between all of the creative applications, and you can see like if 3600 megahertz, RAM, how is it going to compare to like 4800 megahertz DDR5? What's going to be the difference in maximum, kind of capacity? What's going to be the maximum difference? Now, at this point in time, I think the $200 saved would be better on the DDR4 version. And the reason is because I don't see you doing a lot of photo editing, which DDR5 would be the biggest benefit, and then maybe video editing as well, so on. But I do think that you're probably going to benefit more from 64 gigabytes of RAM rather than DDR5. Because I'm looking at your softwares there, Adobe Suite and so on, you'd probably want 64 gigabytes, and that will be a better performance boost than DDR5, and you're still going to be, about $150, something like that, or euros cheaper. So I'd go with that one. What other options I would do is, as you can see, the Silicon Power SSD here is about $20, something like that, cheaper, maybe a little bit less. Just go with that one even for the DDR4 build. There's honestly, like the Samsung drives, they're very, very reliable, but I think if you're on a budget, I'd go with the Silicon Power 1TB PCIe as well. I think you're meaning the US70 drive, because that's a very good drive there. And I'm not sure what the current pricing is for the motherboard, but you might also want to go for the Gigabyte Z690 Aero G DDR4 motherboard, because I can see you've got a white theme there. And what you could also do is that motherboard is very, very good for creators. Or the other motherboard I'd recommend check out is ROG Strix Z690A white motherboard as well. It's like two of the best DDR4 motherboards for creators. One of them is a little bit more gaming theme, and the Gigabyte one is a bit more because I know that in my workflow I am even capping 64 gigabytes with like the videos than what we're doing on this channel, and I'd like 128 gigabytes because that would be even better for my Adobe Suite and so on. But honestly, honestly, this is very good build. Other than that, looks absolutely amazing. Next question is from Aaron. New to this whole computer scene, never really owned the computer and looking to build one because of my 5-year-old daughter. She wants to do some videos like a creator called Adley, and he's bought a GoPro Hero 9 and a Sony a6600 to make videos for fun. Now I'm looking to build a computer for edit videos. 2 years ago I bought the Corsair Crystal Series 680X RGB case, but that's where I stopped. And now this on the bottom there is what I'm trying to purchase. Whether it's overkill or under what I need, and thank you. No problem. So let's have a look. 12700K is a very, very good processor, and I'm slightly thinking maybe perhaps a little bit overkill for what you're doing. If you're just starting off, go with the 12600K, because that's way like above like average needs of a person. Especially if you're getting started, a 12600K is going to be like more than enough for what you can do, and you can save extra like $80 or something like that. Definitely go with that one. Now the cooler is a little bit of a higher end cooler as well. Like I can see the parts already. You've gotten everything is very, very high end there. But I'm not sure if you have the budget, just go for it, buy what you like. But if I'm thinking bang for buck, I'm like toning down a little bit of the components here. I'm thinking maybe you want to match this with your Corsair case, you know, because you've got an IQ here as well. Just get the 12600K and any of the air coolers or AIOs that you can get for much, much cheaper, and you can save an extra $150. Go with the Vetro V5, Arctic Freezer 34, Esports 2 or white as well, so you can match your white theme if you've got the white case. I'm not sure because I can see the cooler here is white, and you're saving $150. Definitely worth doing that. Now, in terms of the motherboard, this is a very good motherboard for creators, and I think, you know, for that price, you're not really going to get a better motherboard for DDR4. This is extremely good price there as well, $259. So yeah, I'd leave the motherboard there. That's a good motherboard. In terms of RAM, I can see you're probably going with the white as well here. This is very nice RAM, 64 gigabytes, plenty of what you're going to be doing. If you probably can even go 32 gigabytes if you're saying like it's a beginning and just starting out, get 32 gigabytes. Should be fine as well. But you know, for 64 gigabytes of this type of RAM, it's not a bad price there either. In terms of storage, you've gone with a very, very good drive. This is one of the more most expensive drives. This is like the top of the line when it gets to terabytes written specs, speeds, you know, everything. So if you want that, go for it. You can save a little bit there if you go with some of the other ones like Silicon Power SU70 drive. It's a little bit cheaper, probably about $100, so you can save $60, but this is very reliable, very solid, very fast, very good drive. In terms of graphics card, RTX 3080, if that is within your budget, go for it. The 10 gigabyte version now you can get like probably even under $1,000. A very good card. Absolutely go for it. Is it overkill for you? Probably, most likely. But it's a very good card as well. If you're doing especially video editing, I'm not sure which program you're using. Is it Premiere Pro, or if you're doing DaVinci Resolve or something like that? If you're using DaVinci Resolve, then this is good. If you're doing Premiere Pro, then maybe even get like a RTX 3070, 3060. This is going to be well enough for your needs. In terms of power supply, I can see white there as well. This is 850 power supply. Very good power supply as well. But there's a few places where you can save a little bit of money, because I do think this is a little bit an overkill. But depends. If your budget allows it, honestly, just go for it. Everything is very, very good. And if you want to splur a little bit, go for it. So this is from Mike. I have watched most of the build videos. Recently made 2 videos about Threadripper 19K and 2 NVIDIA RTX 3090s. He thinks he's got a unique situation and he hasn't got an answer from Future Systems or NVIDIA. And the issue is serving dual functionality. Let me explain. I trade financial markets with 4 monitor setup, my current laptop, 1015 i7 and GTX 950 and 16 GB RAM. Actually can handle it with only occasional lag during the business times of the day. I also write with some Python code and want to use machine learning for quantitative analysis, so any desktop build would need that kind of computing power and not specifically for gaming. I don't game at all. I'm a creative using Photoshop, Lightroom, DaVinci Resolve, Unreal Engine, 3D software and other things. This is where my existing laptop is weak. With each update or Adobe products, it's getting harder and harder to run these things and play back his red Komodo footage. So here's the question. Since I need a hybrid system, I need to decide which driver to use and best components. For example, if I use a creative driver, then how might that cause the data side machine learning to underperform? I'm worried about this because there is no way of I'm spending all this money and have bottlenecks in my creative use for the sake of trading and data science. On the other hand, the bulk of my income comes from trading. Secondly, assuming I'm using one NVIDIA RTX 3090, I've seen the i9 1200K outperform AMD in creative apps. I'm also wondering if this would be true with data science. Lastly, as 8K rendering becomes more mainstream, I'd like to have a build that would accommodate rather than have to swap components at a later date. If you have made any videos on this, please let me know, or if you suggest something to point me out rightly, I'd appreciate it. So first of all, the driver question, which driver should you use? My suggestion is don't get the NVIDIA game ready driver, just get a studio driver. The studio driver isn't limited to only photo video editing. This is studio, all sorts of other things. As far as I know, there is going to be no bottleneck for you even in the machine learning and quantitative analysis, what you're going to be doing. Now my question is, are you going to be doing that analysis on the GPU or on the CPU? Because there's two ways you can go about it, depending which programs, how you're using, how you're going to be setting this up and so on. You can do GPU and CPU analysis. So for CPU, obviously a Threadripper platform is the one to go at the moment. But for GPU, if you're doing GPU, then you can just put it on RTX 3090 and then just use it for, and then the CPU platform can be like 12900K, something like that, which is very good for your creative application. For trading, you don't need to worry about that all. Any of the PCs you're going to be doing, it's going to work fine. The best upgrade for trading probably would be just a fast internet connection. That's where you would see bigger difference there. I would go with one RTX 3090 as well. If you don't do 3D and you know that your 3D software, or even actually the machine learning, because machine learning, they can use NVLinks as well. So make sure that you can use the second RTX 3090, and this will be benefit for you. But in most of the cases, I think one RTX 3090 will be enough for you. The 12900K does perform AMD in the prosumer platform like Ryzen 9, not Threadripper platforms. But 12900K is better at Adobe and Creative Cloud and so on. But the 12900K isn't the best in terms of CPU rendering. If you want CPU rendering, specifically for that, then Threadripper is on another league there. But you do pay the cost of very much lower single core performance, which really is going to show effect in all of the photo and other editing applications. Lastly, 8K rendering becomes more mainstream. I'd like to have a build that accommodate rather than swap builds and components at a later date. Honestly, at the moment, if you want to do 8K rendering, if you have a proper project, what I have tried now at the moment is 8K rendering with some of the videos that we're producing, few cameras, there's lots of effects on B-roll, it's multicam, different cameras together, 6K, 4K and 4K cameras, then upsampling that to 8K. And if you have color grade on it, graphics on it and things on, it's gonna render whatever system I'm gonna use 4+ hours, something like that, for 15 to 20 minute video, 30-minute video, something like that. It's gonna take quite a lot of resources. That's even when I'm going 12900K with RTX 3090, or even if I'm using the Mac Studio M1 Ultra with the best GPU and the best CPU, it's still gonna take forever to render. So I don't think the computer hardware is truly optimized and ready for the 8K rendering. We still need a little bit more power. So if you do need that, and if you want it to be fast, I don't know, an hour 8K rendering, or depending what's your actual editing process and so on, and what resolutions and what effects you use, it's gonna differ vastly. If you can maybe wait for what Intel comes out with 13th gen and the new Xeon platforms, as well as the Ryzen 7000. I think there might be Threadripper 7000 as well, or 6000, Threadripper 7000 coming out. That would be a lot of different as well, because at the moment there's Threadripper 3000, and now the 5000 Pro, which is only SI only. If you want to build it, you can't. So I can see the dilemma there, but I think don't worry about the 8K at the moment. You can use any hardware to upscale to 8K, and at the moment, like even the best hardware isn't completely like optimized for 8K. Not optimized, but it can't really handle 8K. It's not going to be like, you know, processing 4K. I think at the moment we've come to a point where 4K exports and 4K stuff is completely normal on laptops and hardware, but 8K is completely different things, because one frame of 8K is 4K videos. So imagine if you want to render one 8K video, it's kind of equal of rendering 4K videos. So hopefully that was helpful. Cool Deep is asking, video FX artists in After Effects and Nuke want to build a rig. I'm planning this. 12900K with RTX 3070 Ti, ROG Strix Z690F game Wi-Fi with Corsair Vengeance DDR5, 64GB, 5200. Samsung 980 Pro drives, Corsair RMX 1000 watt power supply, Liquid Freezer 2 360mm, Fantex Eclipse case. Okay, very good. The only changes, if you are on a budget on this here, looks like you've chosen quite a lot of things, what you like and so on. But I think on the SSD you can save some money. Samsung 980 Pro, you could get something else over there from Team Group or any other places. So worth checking that out. Jeffrey Myers is saying, I've been watching your channel for a few days now and I am at information overload. I hope that's a good thing. Your content is awesome. Thank you very much. So are you. I am building a PC to run Lightroom and Topaz programs only. I do not shoot video, I shoot Sony a7R III, and would like to know if you can point me out to the right direction to find the content on a build that has no wasted cash, such as spending it on a CPU and GPU that is overkill for my needs. I've watched dozens of your videos and feel like the Intel i5 12600K is a recommendation for CPU and your apps. So starting there, where do I go? I'm stuck on the GPU and motherboard at this point. GPU is the MSI GTX 1660 Super. Ventus XSOC is the right choice, or am I missing something? And motherboard, Gigabyte Z690 DDR4, the right choice. So for motherboard, firstly, I'd recommend checking out the Gigabyte Aero Z690G motherboard with DDR4, because that has a lot of fast USB ports and connectivity. Because I'm thinking your photography, you're probably going to be transferring a lot of files in and out of the computer. You probably want these ports, which are very good for that one. I'm not sure what the latest pricing is for the Z690 DDR4. Most likely that's going to be cheaper, but just worth considering if that's the motherboard you need. Also, regarding the GPU, the 1660 Super, any GPU will be fine for you because you're a photographer. Now, Lightroom and Topaz can use a little bit of GPU, but it's not going to be a massive like difference. I'd go with like RTX 3050 if that is within your budget, and I'm not sure what the latest pricing is on the 1660 Super because that might be a little bit more expensive. 3060, like lower end of the GPUs, that's completely fine for you, especially if you're just a photographer. And RAM, you're pretty confident what you can find, absolutely, but go for 64 gigabytes if you're a photographer. That's going to make a massive difference, and that's it really. Terryman is saying Synology 2-bay NAS DiskStation DS218 for only $50 more than the Synology TS233 that I reviewed previously. Synology is all right. In terms of NAS, I really like Asustor just because their interface is very, very user-friendly. It's easy to understand, much easier than what I can see from Q1 or Synology and so on. So what I'd recommend is you go check out this, I think Locker Store 4 from Asustor, which is probably within the same budget that you're looking, but you're getting 4 bays instead of 2 bays and 2.5 gigabit LAN. So much better specs. Just go check it out. Elliot Ramouche. I want to build a PC for 4K video editing in DaVinci Resolve. Not over $3,000 in New Zealand dollars. I would like to know if this is a good build, any size or compatibility issues. There are 2 parts which I'm not really sure. The case and the RAM sticks. Any feedback would be appreciated. Okay, Elliot, let's have a look. 12600K cooler, Be Quiet Pure Rock Pro 2, Gigabyte Z690 AX DDR4, Corsair Vengeance RAM, yeah, it's fine RAM completely. Samsung 970 EVO Plus 1TB M.2 is fine. GPU, the RTX 3060, that's fine. PSU 750 watt, that. Antec P10 Flux ATX Meat Tower. I'll have to check out what is this. It's alright, I guess. It's probably on the budget side of the things, but yeah, go for it, I think. In terms of the cooler, Pure Rock 2, yeah, fine. RAM sticks, absolutely fine. Case, I think it's all right. Case here, I see no problems there. I think this is going to be a great build for you, Elliot. I guess, you know, you've done the research in which parts, because all of these parts can be a little bit different, and, you know, which motherboard you're going to go for, which, there's lots of different things, but they're pretty good. Probably when I see a Samsung SSD, usually I can say, you could save in there just because it's Samsung SSD, you're paying a little bit more. Costas is asking, hi there, I have a question about the terabytes written spec. Correct me if I'm mistaken, but the Gigabyte Aorus Gen 4 SSD 2TB M.2 NVMe PCI Express 4 has 3600 terabytes written in 5-year warranty. Isn't that better than a lot of the other drives, for example, the FireCuda 530, which has 16 or 1800? I've been thinking about buying the 8 cases USB 4 enclosure with this particular drive because of the terabytes written. So the terabytes written spec usually is per 1 terabyte. When you double the capacity, like 2 terabyte, then the terabytes written doubles as well. So at the moment, I'm looking at the Aorus Gen 4, which is 2 terabyte drive, 3600 terabytes, which is actually 1800 terabytes per 1 terabyte, which is the same as the FireCuda 530, which is 16 or 1800 terabytes. So yes, the Aorus drive is very, very good as well, but it's not going to be massively different because it's 3600 terabytes written. So bear in mind when you're looking at the terabyte written specs is, you know, compare it with 1 terabyte kind of drive. If it's 2 terabytes, it's usually double. Sometimes some weird ones have the same one, even though the capacity doubles, but look at the terabyte written specs per 1 terabyte. So if it's 2 terabyte drive, just divide it by 2, and then you know which drive is better or worse. Downloading Windows 10. In your video, how to create Windows 10 install USB sticks. Is it a full version of Windows 10 Home? Will I not have to pay any full version sometime later? So anyone can make a Windows 10 install USB stick and install Windows, but even here, as you can see, activate your Windows, you will be limited a little bit of some of the features you can use on Windows. But if you want the, you know, activation setting and completely full version, or what it means is activated version, I would go with Windows 10 Pro anyway. Don't get the Windows 10 Home because it's all the same price really. Check out the video sponsor in the description below and you'll know that you can get like this activated for $10, $20, something like that, whatever the latest, you know, promo codes or the deal they're running is. But yeah, and you can use your Windows even if it says Windows, activate your Windows. It's completely fine. You're not going to be like, you know, breaking the law or anything. You're just going to be limited to some of the things you can do on Windows. A lot of my computers often don't get activated because the Windows is there temporarily, so I'm not going to just activate it, you know, and so on. So it's going to be wiped anyway, the drive, once the build is done or something like that, when I pull the build apart. So Argrim is asking from the Philippines. Thank you, I came across your channel when I was looking for the build Cinema 4D needs, purchasing components, and I'm about to purchase other components. I have a quick question about the case though. It's more on a aesthetic concern than anything else. I really like how the fractal torrent case looks like on the X570 build. I would really appreciate it if you can answer me for this. Knowing both support ATX motherboards, can I use all the fans and PSU and other things from the Z690 build in this fractal case? Yes. I know you wrote Z670, but there isn't such available. It's only Z690 ProArt. If you did the Z690 ProArt build that I did in the Fantex P600S case, then yes, you can move it into fractal case, no problem. That's the like awesome thing about PC building. You can choose whichever case you like the most and then put all the parts in there. Okay, I remember this question. This is a little bit where things get a little bit wrong. So PJ is saying, I've been watching videos, I've been choosing the right pieces, I need to complete my own PC to produce my videos. The gear heat had lounge to produce my videos for my channel. I'm doing currently on the XPS 8700, which is doing okay, but it's gonna be slow, and playing it back, I think I'm killing a video card. No, you're not really. This thing is going 15 years old. Whoa, that's old. And you better get something built. I've got a list here and I need to complete my build, and I've never built a PC before, open to any suggestions. Currently the entire setup is about $1,500 in parts, and here we go. So the processor is Ryzen 5 5600X, and now straight away let's have a look at what motherboard this is. Z690 Aero GDDR4. This is not gonna work. This is a Ryzen processor and Intel motherboard, they don't go together. So for the processor I'd go with like 12600K. I highly recommend you check out my $1,500 PC build guide, where I actually went through a whole build for $1,500. What's like best bang for buck for that? and then I'd go for that. The GPU 3050, no problem. RAM is very good as well. SSD, very good as well. The motherboard, very good as well. And the case, very good as well. Now, the only thing I'll change here is the actual processor. The processor, don't go with that 5600X, go with 12600K. I've been slowly getting parts since November and following a workstation for 2021 build. And I have the OS drive, so he has some things there already have. I've got everything one part at a time on a sale or a new MSRP below. Big help, thanks very much, no problem. I see why he's done that, you know, to kind of get everything at MSRP and so on. But what I would do is actually buy all the parts together, because doing it this way is not a very good idea. Because if you're waiting for the last part, let's say you're waiting for your GPU, you're waiting for your CPU or some motherboard or something like that, by that time you might be waiting 6 or 8 months or even 12 months. I don't know how long you can wait, but by that time there might be new parts available and you're going to be kicking yourself, oh, why didn't I buy this now? And by the time you get to the end part, the earlier parts that you already bought are much cheaper at that point. So I wouldn't recommend this way of going about your build, that buying the parts separately and then waiting, because there's also a massive other downside. By the time you start building your PC, you might be actually out of the warranty period or the return period when your SSDs may be broken or something arrived, you know, dead, DOA. So I wouldn't do that. I'd rather, you know, save the money, and then there's going to be a point where you're going to be, look, I need a PC now, and then do your research, what's going to be the best bang for buck build at that point in time, and then buy all the parts at once and then build your PC, because that's going to be a much better pick. Because I think it's good if you already have these parts, you know, available there and so on, but I'd say that if you're doing video editing or content creation, editing for work, then the 5900X isn't a good, you know, option for CPU anymore, just because the Intel one has quick sync and it's going to be so much better at iGPU. I don't want to, like, you know, diss your build, because it's still going to be very, very good build. But what I'm saying is, at this point in time now, I don't think this is quite the best bang for buck build. Musician here, and he's going to build a PC for 12900K with no GPU. And do I understand correctly that I wouldn't recommend air cooling for the CPU, but rather water cooling for music production? I'm planning to use Darkrock Pro 4 in the Torrent case. So you do have a very good airflow case, the Torrent 4 case. It's going to be very, very good. But the only, like, kind of thing what I want to tell you is you really need to spend some time tuning the fans if you want to get this PC to kind of perform quiet. Because with the 12900K at default, what's going to happen is the fan's going to ramp up all the time, because when the 12900K pulls like 240 watts to kind of burst load, the kind of short-term temperature is going to ramp up right away, and the computer is going to think, flipping heck, so hot. So we're going to ramp all the fans up, so you've got a PC is going to go woo, woo, woo all the time. So you need to tune them so they don't do that, but they just kind of keep the temperature, even though it spikes very high temperature, maybe 90 C at like a few seconds, completely fine, let it cool down. You can get it to run cool as well, but I think if you want it to be quiet and cool, depending if you want your PC to be quiet and if you're like outside the room, if you need it to be you know, inside somewhere where you're actually recording and there's other mics as well, then maybe air cooling is a little, maybe water cooling is a little bit better, just because you can tune the pump to work faster and so on. So I'd go with that. I have Intel i7 4th gen, very old computer. Should I wait for the next gen 13, you know, gen of Intel or AMD? And should I go with the next PCIe Gen 5 SSDs, or I'm using Photoshop, Illustrator, Autodesk, blah, blah, blah. Do you recommend waiting for these technologies? Now, if you are a creator, and the thing is, if you make money with this PC, then I don't think you should be waiting for the next thing. Just kind of figure out if the purchase that you're going to be making now, is it going to be worth the investment? Is your workflow going to be better? Benchmark your current PC and then benchmark or look for the benchmarks of the new PC you're going to be building. Think about how much time you're going to be saving and if you should be buying that now. If the performance difference isn't more than 20%, don't upgrade. You're running a great system, wait for the next upgrade, because the purchase is not going to be worth your money. Now, at the same time, if you're a very high-end creator and you know that the 20% or even 10% increase is going to be making the money back for you, any minute, second saved for you, then just go for it. But I think for you can probably wait. If you're asking this question, just wait for the 13th then, no problem. But if you're a creator, then just think about, is it going to make you money? And then make the purchase, you know, according to that kind of question. Can I do a build video of the Z690 Vision motherboard with Gigabyte? Probably not, just because it's last generation from Intel 11th gen. Even though I could get the motherboard, my big kind of concern here is that even the best CPU for that motherboard, 11900K, is going to be worse than the lowest of the next generation i5 12600K. So I can't really justify, or I can't really make you build this PC for this, just because, you know, performance for your dollar is not going to be very good. And that's it. Hopefully this was helpful for you. As always, thanks guys for watching. If you have any other questions, let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. I'm always there in the comment section below as well, until we're going to do the next Q&A very, very soon. If you want your questions answered, you know, let me know in there. Also, when you want build feedback for your specific you know, case, then make sure you have PC part picker or just your parts in there listed, so we can check which part you have, as well as what you're going to be doing with your PC and what's your aim behind this, so then I can give you feedback saying, no, don't do that, don't do that, do that instead, that's very good, do that. That's like easier feedback. Thanks for the sponsor Whokeys as well. Check them out in the description below if you want cheap Windows 10 license. Thanks guys for watching. Bye bye.